Everybody, welcome to my channel. I am going to show you two different projects using the same napkin. At the end, you get to vote. Which do you prefer? The first one with the brown background or the second? I'm starting with this napkin from NINNYSNAPKINS.com. It's called Farm Donkey, and it's got 4 images, but 2 of them are looking left and 2 of them are looking right. And that's something to look for in a napkin because it gives you lots and lots of options. Now I've rough cut them out, and that allows me to addition them on the substrates. I'm using 5x7 substrate. One is a canvas board, the other is a card. So it doesn't matter what substrate you're working on, an art journal page, follow the same steps. First step, I'm going to prep both of these substrates with a coat of white gesso. Easy peasy, just slap it on. I'm using a paintbrush. This just prepares the paper, allows for you to use different techniques. So while that's drying, I'm going to prepare the napkin. Now, when you have the napkins, they typically have 3 plies. All you want is the top ply. So I've peeled off the back plies. And now I am going to water cut the excess off. Now you can use scissors and cut around them. I prefer the rough deckled edge that you get with water cutting. I'm using a liner brush and just getting as close as I can to the focal image. I could do a little area at a time. Now, I've left this in. If you've watched me do this, this is nothing new. You might want to fast forward. But for some of my new viewers, I want to give you the details. And this is one of the techniques. If you're using napkins or rice paper, water cutting is a great technique to use. Allows you to cut off that excess stuff and when you glue it down, it blends more seamlessly to the background. Now, as I said, I am going to do 2 projects. And while there are some similarities and some repeat techniques that I do, there's also some variations. So you want to pay attention to both because just 2 different looks. I'm going to put this one kind of off the edge. So I'm going to cut off this excess. I'm going to save this. We're going to come back to it and use it later on. So on this one, I am going to glue this down with my fluid matte medium, and I'm going to do that right now. The next one, I'm going to do things in a slightly different order, and we'll explain. I'm gluing this down. I'm putting a coat of fluid matte medium underneath and a coat on top to seal it because I know I'm probably going to do some tweaking of the color, some overpainting. Once it's dry, the excess that went over the edge, I'm using a sanding block. This I just got from Home Depot, and I'm just sanding off the edges. This really cleans it, but you do need it to be absolutely dry, and this works. Alternatively, you can use scissors. I'm using Naples yellow, unbleached titanium, and white gesso to paint the background. I might use a little bit of brown. I'm taking those colors from what's on the donkey. And here I'm just going to paint the background color all the way around my glued down focal image. I'm using an angle brush. I find that I have the most control over. And I'm just getting as close as I can. I'm not too worried if I overlap it a little bit over top of the focal image, but I am mixing my paints, a little bit of the Naples yellow, a little bit of the unbleached titanium, and the white gesso. I've slipped this into the pocket. I've made these little envelope pockets, and that by slipping the card in there, I'm keeping the rest of the card clean. I tend to be a very messy crafter and inevitably get paint all over the inside of the card and everything. So having this little pouch helps. So I'm adding color here, and I'm not too precious about how I'm doing it. I'm throwing it in. I want to see texture. I want to see the paint brush marks. That's just adding detail and interest to your background without costing you anything extra. You don't need any special tool. You don't need anything, stamp or stencil for that. And it just adds to it. Now I'm just taking my brush and I've got Naples yellow on there and well, you see what I'm doing. I don't even know what words to describe. Mark making, just adding again some detail to the background. Again, I'm just using paint and my paintbrush. Nothing that anybody can't do. I'm just liking how that's looking. I just want to make a little bit of an interesting background on a substrate that's so small with a focal image that's taking up a good portion of it. It's hard to, you don't want to do too much, but you want some. This stencil I purchased on Amazon. I'll see if I can find the collection. They are nice, small shape, non-specific patterns. And I'm stenciling on that brown. I wanted to bring that brown that's in the donkey into my background. You want everything to work together, be cohesive. So I'm just adding more. And as I start off very tentative. Is this going to do what I want it to do? And as I get the answer, yes, I'm loving this, I'm just adding more. And I'm getting a lot closer to the donkey. Some places I'm pressing harder and getting a darker pattern, and other places it's just lighter. And I like that. Some light, some darks. So then I'm going to overpaint my donkey, and I've grabbed my Inktense blocks. Now, if you're not familiar with Inktense blocks and pencils are ink, not watercolor, but they're activated with water and they act a lot like water, but they are permanent once they're fully activated and dry. So while I could use my acrylic paints to overpaint, they tend to be more opaque. Here, I just want to tweak the color, a wash of color a little bit. So I'm using my Inktense blocks. Because this card isn't going to be varnished, I'm not going to put wet medium all over the donkey. You could get away with using watercolor here. If you were going to varnish it, like the canvas board that I'm going to do next, you don't want to use a product that's going to reactivate because it's going to smudge when you varnish it. So I'm just adding some darks, some lights. I'm matching the colors with the swatch. You see my swatched out colors. And I've just tweaked the color ever so slightly. On the overpainting on the second one, you're going to see a little bit more detail. I'm adding the liner brush and adding a little bit of these hairs there that kind of got lost when I cut, and just extending that, making, adding the lines of the eyes. I use the stylus to put the whites of the eyes in and the black. Just tweaking it ever so slightly. Here I think I'm using black acrylic paint, but it's thinned down and I'm using that liner brush. There I'm just adding the whites to the eyes and then gluing down the sentiment. Now I went on and found farm animal sentiments. You can make this donkey say anything. And I know it's a strange kind of focal image, but you can make farm animals or animals say anything. And if you have somebody in your life that is a donkey lover, which is where this is going, a friend of mine has a brother who loves donkeys. So that was why I chose to use this napkin. Here I'm just adding some shading and, again, beefing up that focal image, making it stand out from the background. I grabbed my Sakura Glaze Black. Now you want to make sure that everything's completely dry or you will kill your pen. And we have enough money invested in our products, our supplies. We want to take care of them, and making sure that everything is completely dry before you grab out any kind of liner pen is key. I want to make the word live stand out, so I'm going to go over that. Now, the Sakura glaze is dimensional and glossy, so it's going to shine and have a little bit of texture. And then I'm going to use that to put a line, a sketchy line, all the way around the corner, edges the card. And the sentiment says, live like someone left the gate open. I grabbed a piece of drywall tape. It was missing something. I'm using dark brown, a little bit of brown, a little bit of black mixed in, and just adding one more detail. It just looked a little too perfect. That last stenciling I put everywhere, and I just wanted to break that up a little bit, add a little bit more interest. This introduced that dark brown black that's on the donkey into my background as well. So everything kind of works together. And I'm using a stencil brush to go through the drywall tape. Now that piece of drywall tape, the acrylic paint will dry. I just set it to the side and I can use it again and again and again as a mark maker. And there's card number 1. Remember it. Is that going to be your favorite? So let's move on to option 2. And here's the background that I create with that. So to start this one off, because it's a canvas board, I want some texture. This is a small substrate, so I'm not putting it all over. I just want it in that top left-hand corner where I know the donkey is not going to be glued. The stencil is, I believe, Fantangle, and it is from the Crafter's Workshop. So once that's completely dry, I'm now going to colorize my canvas board. Now remember, the first project, we glued the donkey down and then painted the background. I'm going to show you that you can do it the opposite way, put the color down and then glue the donkey down. And the only reason that works here, and it doesn't matter which way you do it, is because the color of the donkey, dark brown, is darker than what I'm putting in the background. If they were yellow flowers or there was a lot of white showing through, I would be, or my background was very dark, I wouldn't want to glue the napkin down on top of that because once the napkin goes translucent, you're going to see everything that is behind it when you glue it down. So here I'm using, again, the same colors. I've got Naples yellow, I've got unbleached titanium, white gesso, but I'm also going to add some Prussian blue. The person that requested this donkey project wanted blue in the background. So I needed to find a way of incorporating the blue, but I needed the Naples yellow, the brown, the unbleached titanium that was in the donkey to still be in the background. So here I'm just adding a little bit of blue with the makeup sponge. It's very soft and ethereal, and I'm loving the look of that. I'm going to add some script stamp, and I'm putting brown acrylic paint on this script stamp and just stamping it onto the background. Of course, after I stamp with acrylic paint, I do make sure I take time and wash the stamp, get that acrylic paint off, or after a while, it'll just kill your stamp. So again, looking after your stash. So there's the background as I have it now, but it's not done yet. I'm going to do some more tweaking, but it's time to glue it down. And again, I'm using my fluid matte medium. I'm putting some underneath, laying it, and then putting it on top. One of the ways the napkin will get very fragile when it's wet. So if you get a lot of matte medium on the brush, you have less friction and you're less likely to rip your napkin. So remember that piece that I cut off the other one? I am going to put it here. I'm going to glue it. I wanted to extend it. It didn't quite fit. And now it's perfect. Nobody is going to even know that I did that unless you watch the video. So that again is getting a good dry. And here I am going around and painting the edge of the canvas board. I can't leave it white because it just kind of looks funny. I want to finish it off. Sometimes I paint the background, but especially if I get paint all over the back. This one I kept pretty clean. So I'm using brown and I'm using a makeup sponge and just kind of edging around my project. I think I do brown and then I come back and I add black, but I'm not sure that's on the video. Sometimes I get so involved in what I'm doing, I forget. So now we're going to overpaint. And here I'm just showing how I'm taking a small brush and I'm brightening the whites. And this is making it stand out. Here I'm using acrylic paint. I'm using some of the Naples yellow thin down just for a few of the areas. I just want to brighten it up. Both of these donkeys I do overpaint. And I'm going to get out my Inktense blocks here in a minute. But the colors end up differently. And while with the other one, I tried to keep true to whatever colors were there, here I'm making it a little bit more red. I could have made it a little bit more gray. You can alter the color to fit what you want. So you're using the base of what the artist has given you from the napkin and then tweaking it. So I've sped up a lot of this video, especially those parts where I've already shown you parts of it. And I'm just following intuitively. Where there's shadows or highlights or lowlights or, that the artist put in, I'm trying to duplicate that. You can always look at the original because you've got 4 images to look at. Now I'm thinking that blue needs a little bit of a bump up, so I've got blue on the makeup sponge, and I'm specifically going over some of the texture and bringing out the texture so it shows up a little bit more. You got that pattern there, and I'm enjoying the darker blue, the making it a little bit more visible. It was a little too soft. Now here I've taken the brown acrylic paint from matching the color that's in the donkey, and I got it on my pad of my finger and I'm rubbing it over the texture just to introduce some of that brown into the background. Remember I said earlier we want to make sure that whatever colors are on the focal image, some of that shows up in your background. Kind of made a mess here, so I'm just tapping it back, making it softer. You can always tweak, let the acrylic paint dry. And there's that beautiful texture background. I'm going to have to remember that. I love it. I hope you do too. Then I have the sentiment, and this again was one that the person who requested this made sent me the sentiment. Life is better with a donkey. And I've cut out the sentiment, but I'm just edging the around it with the makeup sponge just to make it black. And that's just kind of framing it without getting too heavy handed. I'm gluing this on top of texture, so outlining it would be difficult because you're working on texture, a lot of texture in this case. So I positioned it how I like it after playing with it and trying to decide what looks best. And then I'm just gluing it down. These canvas boards are great. They can be popped into a 5x7 frame. Just pop out the glass and put this right in the frame. Or it could go on, miniature plate racks or just leaning on a ledge. I'm giving both of these a good splatter of gold because I love my bling. So, which one do you like best? The first one with the brown, live like someone left the gate open, or life is better with a donkey? And why? I'm liking both of them and I'm not going to choose. But you can see they're the same, different. So 2 projects, 1 napkin. You've got options. Which one will you choose?